Time of death. The lead surgeon's voice was barely audible as the heart monitor dissolved into one long, unbroken tone. Around the operating table, the surgical team fell silent. For a brief moment, everyone believed the fight was over. Everyone except one quiet scrub nurse. Without waiting for instructions, she reached for a vascular clamp. Her eyes locked on the open chest before her. While others hesitated, she stepped toward the operating table, determined to make one last attempt. Operating Room 4 at Seattle Presbyterian Hospital was normally a place of calm precision. Every movement followed a rhythm. Every command had purpose. But at 2:14 a.m. on a rain-soaked Tuesday morning, that order had completely collapsed. On the table lay Daniel Harford, a 42-year-old father of three whose family had been shattered in seconds by a drunk driver speeding through a red light in a stolen pickup truck. His injuries were catastrophic. Multiple ribs had been crushed. His left lung had collapsed. Worst of all, his descending thoracic aorta had suffered a devastating tear. Every heartbeat pumped more blood into his chest. Dr. Jordan Linfield, the attending trauma surgeon, fought desperately to regain control. Known throughout the hospital for his confidence, Linfield had rarely faced a situation this overwhelming. His gloves were soaked in blood. His hands trembled despite years of experience. "More suction," he shouted. "I can't see anything." The suction tubing struggled to keep pace as dark blood continued flooding the surgical field. "Where's the tear? Give me a Satinsky clamp." "Now." Across the table, the scrub nurse, Abigail Hayes, immediately placed the requested instrument into his waiting hand. Most people simply called her Abby. She had worked at Seattle Presbyterian for less than 6 months, an agency nurse assigned mostly to overnight shifts. She attracted little attention. She rarely joined conversations. She never complained. She simply arrived, did her work, and disappeared before sunrise. To hospital administrators, she was dependable temporary staff. To most surgical residents, she was little more than the quiet nurse who always anticipated the next instrument. No one realized how carefully she observed every operation. As Linfield blindly reached deeper into the chest cavity, Abby's attention sharpened. Something was wrong. He's lost his orientation, she thought. He's clamping without identifying the vessel. The anesthesiologist's voice cut through the tension. "Jordan, blood pressure is collapsing." Dr. Mitchell stared anxiously at the monitors. "Systolic is barely 40. We're losing him." "I'm trying," Linfield snapped. Sweat rolled beneath his face shield as frustration replaced precision. A newly graduated circulating nurse hurried forward with sterile gauze. Before she could help, Linfield shook her away. "Don't distract me." His breathing became uneven. "Has anyone reached Dr. Croft?" The young nurse swallowed nervously. "The chief surgeon is still out of the hospital." Mitchell looked back toward the surgical field. "We don't have much time." Blood continued filling the chest faster than suction could remove it. Linfield finally committed to the clamp. It was the wrong move. Instead of controlling the damaged section of the aorta, the instrument crushed nearby tissue, worsening the injury. The weakened vessel tore wider. A violent surge of bright arterial blood burst upward, splashing across Linfield's face shield. For one terrible second, he froze. The operating room seemed to stop with him. Mitchell recognized the look immediately. Years earlier, military trauma surgeons had described the phenomenon during combat medicine training. When overwhelming stress collides with catastrophic failure, even experienced professionals can become mentally locked in place. The mind hesitates. Critical seconds disappear. Linfield stared into the open chest without moving. His breathing slowed. His hands remained suspended over the patient. Daniel Harford's life slipped away with every passing heartbeat. "Jordan." Mitchell's voice echoed through the operating room. "You have to move." There was no response. The monitor alarms grew louder. The circulating nurse stood frozen. No one seemed to know what to do next. Only Abby remained focused. She had been silently studying the injury from the beginning. Now she understood exactly where the bleeding was coming from. Without taking her eyes off the wound, she tightened her grip on the vascular clamp. If no one acted in the next few seconds, Daniel Harford would die on the table. And for the first time that night, the quiet scrub nurse prepared to do something no one in the room expected. Dr. Jordan Linfield's shoulders sagged. The fight had drained out of him. Slowly, he lowered his blood-stained hands and stepped away from the operating table. His voice barely carried across the room. "It's over." He stared blankly toward the wall clock. "The tear is too far back. We can't control it." Silence settled over operating room 4. The only sound left was the relentless alarm from the heart monitor and the hiss of oxygen flowing through the ventilator. Linfield drew a slow breath. Time of death. No, the single word was quiet, yet it cut through the room with startling force. Linfield turned sharply. Abigail Hayes hadn't stepped away. The young scrub nurse remained beside the operating table, her gloved hands hovering over the open chest. His expression hardened. "Excuse me, nurse." His frustration quickly replaced his shock. "I said step away. The patient is gone." Abby's eyes never left the wound. "He still has cerebral perfusion," she replied calmly. "There is still time." The room froze. Even Dr. Mitchell looked up in surprise. The nervous, soft-spoken nurse everyone thought they knew had disappeared. Standing at the table was someone entirely different. Her voice was steady, confident, commanding. "Harper," Abby said without hesitation. "Increase suction." "Dr. Mitchell, prepare another round of emergency blood and have epinephrine ready." The authority in her tone left no room for debate. Linfield lunged toward her. "What do you think you're doing?" His voice echoed through the operating room. "You're a scrub nurse. Step away from my patient." Without looking at him, Abby shifted her weight. As he reached for her arm, she redirected his movement just enough to force him off balance. He stumbled backward into a supply cart with a loud crash. Before anyone could react, Abby stepped into the surgeon's position. "Medication," she ordered. Mitchell hesitated for only a fraction of a second. Something about her certainty overrode every question in his mind. He administered the medication. Abby leaned over the open chest. Instead of reaching for another clamp, she placed both gloved hands into the wound. The operating room watched in stunned silence. She closed her eyes. Vision wasn't helping anymore. The blood obscured everything. She relied on touch instead. Slowly, her fingers navigated through damaged tissue, carefully identifying each structure by feel alone. She ignored the sharp edges of fractured ribs scraping against her sleeves. She moved deeper, past the injured lung, past surrounding tissue, searching, waiting. Then she felt it. A powerful stream of blood pulsed against her fingertips, the torn section of the descending aorta. The injury was hidden behind the vessel where surgical instruments could barely reach. "There you are," she whispered under her breath. With precise pressure, Abby pressed her thumb directly against the rupture, trapping the damaged vessel against the spine. She held it firmly. Immediately, everything changed. The blood filling the chest slowed. Then it stopped rising altogether. "Suction," Abby said. Harper, still shaking, guided the suction tip into the cavity. Within seconds, pooled blood cleared from the surgical field. For the first time since the operation began, everyone could actually see. The room fell completely silent. Abby's arm disappeared deep inside the patient's chest, her thumb serving as a living clamp where no instrument had been able to reach. Dr. Mitchell stared at the monitors. His eyes widened. Blood pressure is climbing. He looked again to make certain he wasn't imagining it. It's responding. The heart rhythm strengthened. Pulse returned. Oxygen delivery improved. He has circulation again, Mitchell said, almost in disbelief. Across the room, Linfield slowly climbed to his feet. His face had gone pale. He stared at Abby as though witnessing something impossible. "You can't hold that forever," he said quietly. His voice no longer carried anger, only stunned disbelief. "The tear is too extensive." He looked toward the exposed vessel. "Even if you've controlled the bleeding, someone still has to repair the artery." His eyes returned to Abby. "You can't place a vascular graft while your hand is occupying the space." Abby didn't look up. She kept steady pressure on the damaged vessel, never allowing her thumb to move. Then, with remarkable calm, she answered, "I know." A faint smile appeared beneath her surgical mask. "So don't waste time arguing." Her eyes finally lifted to meet the stunned surgical team. "Open the graft tray." The room came alive again. "You're wasting your time," Dr. Linfield snapped, struggling to believe what he was seeing. "There's no way out of this. You're only delaying the inevitable." For the first time since taking control of the operating table, Abby looked directly at him. There was no fear in her eyes, no anger, only absolute focus. "I don't need a vascular graft right now," she said calmly. "I need a bovine pericardial patch and 4-0-proline on a curved needle." Without hesitation, she continued issuing instructions. "Harper, prepare the patch. Dr. Mitchell, gradually lower his systolic pressure. I need less stress on the repair while I work." Mitchell nodded immediately, lowering pressure now. His hands moved confidently across the anesthesia controls, without anyone acknowledging it. The normal chain of command had disappeared. No one in the room questioned Abby anymore. Linfield stared in disbelief. "If this patient dies," he warned, "you'll answer for practicing medicine without a license." Abby never looked away from the surgical field, then stopped talking. She replied evenly. She extended one hand. "Needle driver." Harper hurried to load the delicate suture before placing the instrument into Abby's waiting hand. The operating room became silent once again. Only the steady rhythm of the monitors filled the air. Because her left hand remained deep inside the patient's chest, maintaining pressure on the damaged vessel, Abby could work only with her right. She couldn't see the tear. She couldn't fully expose it. Every movement depended entirely on touch and experience. One stitch at a time, she guided the needle through the biological patch and carefully into the damaged vessel. Her wrist moved with astonishing precision. Each motion flowed effortlessly into the next. Pass, pull, tie, secure. Again, pass, pull, tie, secure. The sequence repeated with calm, mechanical efficiency. Dr. Mitchell would later struggle to describe what he had witnessed. It felt impossible, he would say. It was like watching someone perform surgery from memory instead of sight. The repair wasn't elegant. It wasn't textbook. It was an improvised solution born from extraordinary composure under impossible conditions. Yet every stitch landed exactly where it needed to. Finally, Abby spoke one quiet word. "Done." The entire room held its breath. Very slowly, she eased the pressure of her thumb away from the injured vessel. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. All eyes remained fixed on the repair. For one endless second, nothing happened. Then the repaired aorta expanded with each heartbeat. Blood flowed smoothly through the vessel. No fresh bleeding appeared. The chest cavity remained remarkably clear. Mitchell stared at the monitor. His eyes widened. Blood pressure is 110/70. His voice nearly broke. "He's stable." He looked from the monitor back to Abby. I don't believe it." Linfield remained frozen. He examined the repair line in stunned silence. Every suture was evenly spaced. Every knot sat perfectly against the patch. The work looked remarkably precise. Abby slowly withdrew both hands from a surgical field. She removed her blood-stained gloves and dropped them into the disposal container. Then, as though nothing extraordinary had happened, she looked toward Linfield. "You can irrigate the cavity and complete the closure, doctor." Her voice had returned to its usual quiet tone. "I'm feeling a little lightheaded." She managed a tired smile. "I think I need my break." Before anyone could respond, Abby turned and quietly walked through the operating room doors. The room remained speechless. Only seconds later, those same doors burst open. Dr. Harrison Croft, the hospital's legendary chief of surgery, strode inside at full speed. Still wearing his coat over his scrubs, he pulled on sterile gloves while walking toward the table. "Report," he demanded. "Where's the uncontrolled bleed? How much time do we have?" Expecting chaos, he approached the patient without slowing. Instead, he stopped abruptly. The surgical field was calm. The chest cavity was clean. The repaired vessel showed no obvious bleeding. Croft leaned closer. He adjusted his magnifying loops and carefully inspected the repair. His eyes followed every stitch. Each one was evenly placed. Each knot was flawlessly secured. The craftsmanship immediately caught his attention. For several long seconds, he said nothing. Then he slowly straightened. His expression had, "Did you perform this repair?" Dr. Harrison Croft's voice was calm, but everyone in the operating room felt the weight behind the question. Dr. Jordan Linfield swallowed hard. His eyes shifted toward the operating room doors, where Abby had disappeared only moments earlier. He looked back at Croft. Pride urged him to take the credit. Fear warned him not to. After several painful seconds, he lowered his head. "No, sir." Croft studied him carefully. "Then who completed a repair like this?" Linfield slowly raised a trembling hand and pointed toward the hallway. "A junior scrub nurse." He hesitated before speaking her name. "Abigail Hayes." Croft stared at the empty doorway. "A nurse." The single word barely escaped his lips. He looked back at the repaired vessel, his expression slowly changing from curiosity to disbelief. He had seen workmanship like this only once before, more than a decade earlier, inside a military trauma facility during an overseas deployment. The surgeon responsible had been surrounded by rumors, classified reports, and stories few people believed. Military personnel had known the mysterious operator by only one name, the Ghost of Kandahar. Croft's pulse quickened. Without another word, he removed his gloves. "Mitchell." The anesthesiologist looked up. "Yes, doctor." "Don't let anyone disturb this patient." Croft's voice was unusually firm. "I need to make a phone call." He hurried from the operating room. By the time he reached the staff locker area, Abby's locker stood open. Inside, there was almost nothing. Her neatly folded scrub uniform rested on the bench. Her identification badge lay carefully on top. No personal belongings remained. She had disappeared. Croft immediately understood what that meant. The remarkable operation wasn't the end of the mystery. It was only the beginning. A few minutes later, he locked the heavy door of his private office. His hands shook as he opened a concealed compartment inside his desk. From it, he removed an old prepaid satellite phone. He never used it unless absolutely necessary. Avoiding every hospital communication system, he entered a long encrypted number from memory. The line connected after several seconds of static. A deep, guarded voice answered. "This channel is restricted." Croft didn't hesitate. "General Lawson, it's Harrison Croft." Silence followed. Finally, the voice returned. "Harrison." A pause. "It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You only call this number when something has gone terribly wrong." Croft leaned against his desk. "I've just come from operating room 4. He lowered his voice. "Civilian trauma patient. Massive chest injury. The descending aorta was nearly destroyed." He took a slow breath. "My attending surgeon lost control. The patient was moments from death. But someone else stepped in." General Lawson remained silent. Croft continued. "She repaired the vessel almost entirely by touch." Another pause. "The repair was extraordinary. But that's not why I'm calling." He closed his eyes. It was the stitching, the spacing, the knot pattern. I've seen that exact technique only once before. He opened his eyes again. 12 years ago. During the war. For several seconds, only static filled the line. Then Lawson spoke quietly. Described the individual. Croft answered immediately. Hospital records identify her as Abigail Hayes. Agency scrub nurse. Late 20s. Quiet. Practically invisible until she took control of the operation. Lawson interrupted. Where is she now? She's gone. Croft looked toward the office window. She emptied her locker and disappeared before anyone realized what had happened. Another long silence followed. Croft wiped perspiration from his forehead. Finally, he asked the question that had haunted him since leaving the operating room. Bradley, tell me I'm imagining this. Tell me Major Evelyn Cross is still dead. The response did not come immediately. When General Lawson finally spoke, I know exactly what I saw, Dr. Harrison Croft said, his voice low but unwavering. That repair wasn't ordinary. It carried a signature. He tightened his grip on the phone. The surgeon who performed it used techniques I've only witnessed once before, 12 years ago. Silence lingered on the secure line. Finally, General Bradley Lawson spoke. If you're thinking of Major Evelyn Cross, I am. Croft didn't hesitate. They called her the ghost of Kandahar for a reason. She was the only combat surgeon I ever met who could perform a blind posterior aortic repair by touch alone. His pulse quickened. So tell me why someone with those skills is hiding in my hospital under the name Abigail Hayes. Lawson exhaled slowly. If it really is Evelyn, he said, your problem is much larger than a false employment record. Croft waited. 4 years ago, Lawson continued, she served as the primary surgeon during a classified extraction mission. The team recovered a high-value intelligence asset, someone who possessed information capable of exposing an international network involved in illegal weapons trafficking. Evelyn kept that man alive through an impossible firefight. He paused before continuing. The asset later died while in government custody. Croft frowned. And after that, too many powerful people wanted the entire operation forgotten. Another long silence followed. Evelyn had heard things she was never supposed to hear. Croft felt a chill settle over him. So the helicopter crash. It became her official story. Lawson's tone was flat. A very small group helped her disappear. Her records were erased. She received a new identity, a new life, and one instruction above all others. Croft already knew the answer. Never practice high-level trauma surgery again. Exactly. Lawson continued. Her surgical methods are too distinctive. If she ever used them again, anyone comparing unusual surgical reports could recognize the pattern. Croft glanced toward the operating suite. I haven't filed tonight's report. It won't matter. Lawson interrupted him immediately. How many people witnessed the operation? Croft answered honestly. The anesthesiologist. A circulating nurse. Dr. Linfield. And me. Lawson's response came instantly. Then the clock has already started. His voice grew more urgent. Listen carefully, Harrison. If the wrong people discover Evelyn is alive, they won't simply come after her. They'll erase everything connected to her. Croft remained silent. The patient. The witnesses. The evidence. Anyone who can connect the pieces. Every word landed heavier than the last. You need to secure your patient and protect everyone who was in that operating room. Before Croft could reply, a loud emergency alarm echoed through the hospital. Red warning lights flashed outside his office. The overhead speakers crackled. Code blue. Intensive care unit. Bed 7. The announcement repeated. Croft's blood ran cold. Bed 7. That was Daniel Harford. The phone slipped from his hand as he rushed into the hallway. Moments later, he was sprinting toward the elevators, the once quiet hospital suddenly feeling far less like a place of healing and far more like the opening scene of a disaster. Meanwhile, 3 floors below, the woman everyone knew as Abigail Hayes was loading a worn duffel bag into the trunk of an aging sedan. She had already changed out of her scrubs. The quiet hospital nurse was gone. In her place stood someone composed, alert, and ready to disappear before sunrise. She knew the risks. The moment she stepped into that operating room and revealed skills she had spent years hiding, her carefully built anonymous life had begun to unravel. Saving Daniel Harford had violated the one rule she had promised never to break. Yet she couldn't watch a man die when she knew there was still a chance to save him. She closed the trunk and reached for the driver's door. Before she could open it, a small radio receiver hidden beneath the dashboard crackled with activity. The hospital emergency channel. Code blue. Intensive care unit. Bed 7. Her hand froze. Bed 7. Daniel Harford. She frowned. When she had left the operating room, his condition had been stable. The repair had been holding perfectly. A sudden collapse made no sense. She replayed the night's events in her mind. The collision, the stolen truck, the complete lack of skid marks, the timing. One possibility slowly forced its way to the surface. Maybe the crash had never been random. Maybe Daniel Harford hadn't simply been an unlucky victim. If someone had intended to eliminate him, and now realized he had survived. The emergency call took on a far more disturbing meaning. Evelyn stood silently in the rain, weighing two choices. She could drive away, disappear once again, protect the identity she had spent years building. Or she could return to the hospital and risk exposing herself all over again. Her jaw tightened. With a quiet sigh, she turned back toward the trunk. Whatever was happening inside that building, she wasn't ready to walk away from it. Damn it. The words escaped Evelyn's lips as she turned away from her car and sprinted toward the hospital stairwell. Inside the intensive care unit, panic had already taken over. Daniel Harford's bedside monitor emitted a continuous alarm while nurses rushed between medication carts and emergency equipment. Dr. Jordan Linfield had arrived first. Determined to regain control after the operating room disaster, he immediately began giving orders. Epinephrine now. Prepare for chest compressions. An ICU nurse hesitated. Doctor, his chest was just opened. Aggressive compressions could damage the surgical repair. Linfield barely looked at her. If we don't act, he'll die. Start compressions. The staff exchanged uncertain glances. No one noticed the maintenance worker quietly leaving the far end of the hallway. Dressed in an ordinary janitorial uniform, he blended easily into the confusion. An empty syringe rested inside one gloved hand. Only moments earlier, he had entered Harford's room unnoticed and injected a dangerous substance into the patient's intravenous line before calmly walking away. Now he headed toward the emergency exit, convinced his assignment was complete. As he reached the stairwell door, he pushed it open. A powerful hand shot from the darkness. It seized the front of his uniform before he could react. The man looked up in surprise. Evelyn Cross stood directly in front of him. She drove a knee sharply into his midsection. The attacker folded forward, gasping for breath. Before he recovered, Evelyn slammed the heavy steel door into him with crushing force. He collapsed onto the concrete landing and lay motionless. She didn't pause to check him. There wasn't time. She hurried back into the hospital and raced toward the intensive care unit. Step away from him. Her voice echoed through the corridor as she entered Harford's room. Doctors, nurses, and security personnel all turned at once. Linfield stared at her in disbelief. You, his face reddened. Security, remove her immediately. Evelyn ignored him. She reached Harford's bedside and examined the intravenous tubing. Something immediately caught her attention. A faint cloudy residue remained inside the line. Her expression hardened. This wasn't spontaneous. She disconnected the 4 tubing in one swift motion. His heart isn't failing on its own. She looked directly at the nursing staff. I need calcium immediately. Prepare sodium bicarbonate. The confidence in her voice erased every hesitation. The ICU nurses moved without question. Linfield stepped toward her. You have no authority to. Without taking her eyes off the patient, Evelyn pushed him firmly aside. He stumbled backward into a supply cart. I told you to stay clear. Within seconds, medication arrived. Calcium ready, one nurse announced. Administer it. Another nurse prepared the next syringe. Sodium bicarbonate is ready. Give it. Evelyn watched the monitor carefully. No rhythm returned. She reached for the defibrillator. Charged to 200. The machine hummed as energy built. She positioned the paddles carefully, avoiding the fresh surgical incision. Everyone clear. The electrical shock lifted Harford's body from the mattress. All eyes shifted to the monitor. For a brief moment, a few irregular signals appeared. Then the screen flattened again. No sustained rhythm. Evelyn remained calm. Increased to 300. The defibrillator charged once more. The room fell silent except for the rising electronic tone. Clear. The second shock struck. Harford's body jerked sharply. Evelyn never looked away from the monitor. One heartbeat appeared. Then another. The line hesitated. Everyone held their breath. The monitor flickered uncertainly, as if deciding whether to surrender or recover. No one spoke. No one moved. Every second stretched endlessly. Evelyn's eyes remained fixed on the screen, refusing to celebrate too early. She had seen too many patients slip away in moments like this. Quietly, almost to herself, she whispered, "Come on. Fight." The room waited in complete silence, knowing the next few heartbeats would decide whether Daniel Harford had been saved twice in one night, or whether even Evelyn Cross had finally reached the limits of what skill alone could overcome. For 3 endless seconds, the heart monitor displayed nothing but a single, unbroken green line. No pulse, no movement, no hope. The room stood frozen as every pair of eyes remained fixed on the screen. Then, a single spike appeared. Another followed. A faint electronic beep echoed through the ICU. Beep, beep, beep. Within moments, the rhythm strengthened into a steady heartbeat. The monitor transformed from silence into life. Dr. Mitchell stared at the display in disbelief as the blood pressure slowly climbed. "He's coming back," he whispered. The mechanical ventilator continued its steady rhythm while Daniel Harford's heart resumed beating on its own. The emergency medications had worked. The dangerous chemical imbalance had been reversed. The crisis was over. A wave of relief swept through the room. Several nurses leaned against the walls, exhausted after the frantic effort to save their patient. One quietly wiped tears from her eyes. Across the room, Dr. Jordan Linfield slowly lowered himself onto the floor. Scattered medical supplies surrounded him. His hands trembled. For the first time in years, the confident surgeon found himself unable to speak. The events of the night had stripped away every illusion of control he believed he possessed. Evelyn Cross stepped back from the bedside. She wiped the sweat from her forehead before taking one final look at the monitor. The rhythm remained strong. The repair continued holding perfectly. Only then did she allow herself to relax. She turned toward the ICU nurses and offered a small, grateful smile. "You all did well." Her voice was once again calm and gentle. "Continue the calcium infusion, monitor his electrolytes closely, and keep a close eye on his cardiac rhythm." The nurses nodded without hesitation. None of them questioned her anymore. As Evelyn turned toward the exit, the sliding glass doors opened. Standing in the doorway was Dr. Harrison Croft. His breathing was heavy from running through the hospital. For several long moments, he said nothing. He looked first at Daniel Harford, then at Linfield, sitting silently on the floor. Finally, his eyes settled on Evelyn. There was no suspicion left in his expression, only admiration. "Nurse Abby," he said quietly. Evelyn met his gaze. "My shift ended an hour ago, doctor." Croft stepped inside and allowed the door to close behind him. Without another word, he reached into his coat pocket and removed a heavy set of car keys. He tossed them toward her. Evelyn caught them effortlessly. She glanced down. A silver luxury car emblem reflected beneath the fluorescent lights. Croft spoke softly, making certain no one else could hear. "My vehicle is parked in the physician's private lot. It has a full tank of fuel. There's emergency cash inside. The registration cannot be traced back to you. Evelyn looked at him in surprise. Croft continued. The man you stopped in the stairwell attacked hospital staff. My report will state that you protected this unit before leaving the building. No questions, no accusations, only help. For the first time that night, the emotionless expression Evelyn had worn for years finally cracked. Behind the calm exterior stood a woman who had carried the weight of impossible choices for far too long. She looked directly at Croft. Why? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Why would you risk everything for me? Croft smiled gently, because medicine was never supposed to be about titles. It was never about pride. He glanced toward Daniel Harford. It's about protecting life. Then he looked back at her. You walked away from recognition. You accepted a quiet life. And tonight, you broke every rule you had made for yourself because someone needed help. He paused before adding one final sentence. The world still needs people willing to do that. Silence settled between them. Evelyn slowly closed her hand around the keys. No words could properly express her gratitude. Instead, she gave a single respectful nod. It was enough. She walked past Croft and disappeared into the dimly lit hallway. Minutes later, police sirens echoed through the rain-soaked streets outside Seattle Presbyterian. Emergency vehicles filled the entrance. Officers hurried into the building. By the time they reached the physician's parking area, one parking space stood empty. The woman known as Abigail Hayes had vanished once again. She left behind no forwarding address, no explanation, only a patient who had survived against impossible odds, a humbled surgeon forced to confront his own limitations, and an unforgettable story that would quietly pass from one generation of hospital staff to the next. Some swore the mysterious scrub nurse had never existed. Others insisted she had saved 2 lives in a single night before disappearing without asking for recognition. Years later, new residents would still hear whispers during overnight shifts. They spoke of a quiet nurse who appeared when every hope was gone, a woman who never stayed long enough to accept thanks, a ghost who chose compassion over glory. Whether anyone believed the legend no longer mattered, because somewhere, hidden beneath another ordinary name, Evelyn Cross continued living exactly as she always had, watching, waiting, ready to step forward whenever someone's life depended on it. And perhaps that is the greatest reminder of all. The true heroes are rarely the loudest people in the room. They are often the ones nobody notices, until the moment everyone needs them.